Hi there. Hi there. Welcome to another live. And thought I'd use the live way of doing things so I can get these curriculum choices out to you guys because I don't know if you've noticed, but it is February. And so you may be wondering, why would I be telling you my curriculum choices for the current school year now? Because isn't it a little bit late? Two reasons. One of them is that I was a little busy beginning of the school year. We made a lot of changes this year, trying a lot of different things, and like couple of my kids are on the autism spectrum, but one of them especially struggles with changes in routine and with struggles with doing things in a new way and doing new things. And so the beginning of the school year was for me was a lot of just kind of living life and trying to get us all adjusted to a new way of doing things and to the new things we were doing. And so I was just busy. So I thought, well, I guess I'm just not going to do a curriculum choices video this year, but um, I decided to do it now because I thought this might actually be a better time because I could at least let you know whether or not my curriculum choices worked out, because this is the time of the school year when we are all, or should all, be kind of evaluating how things are going so that we can start planning for the next school year. Um, what we might do different the next school year, what's actually working out. If you're looking for new curriculum choices for the next school year because things haven't worked out for you this year in one way or another, um, you'll be researching what other people are using. At least that's how I do things. And so I thought now's actually a really good time for me to share with you what we're using this year and kind of how it's working out. Thought that might be more valuable information for you than just here's what I've chosen and then maybe never really hearing how that worked out, if I made good choices or not. So I'm going to try to spell that out to you, not just what we chose, but why we chose, or why I made these particular choices for my eighth grader, and if they worked out or not. Sound fair? So that's what I'm going to do. I will say that I'm going to try not to go too in depth into any of these curriculum choices because I just want to get through with the content of it. If I go into a review for everything we chose, then this will take forever. And I don't think you want that. I don't want that. You know, my family's waiting for me to finish up dinner. So let's just get through as much as we can with the actual choices and the valuable information, whether or not it worked out for us and why. And then if you have questions about a particular curriculum choice, if you'd like me to do a review of something particular, let me know and I will try to do that in a separate video or a different live, maybe, where you can ask questions while I'm talking about it. So you just let me know. You can also look on my page, on my YouTube channel page, to see what curriculum I've done reviews on in the past, and maybe that'll help you out. Okay? All right. So before we get started on the particular options, let me just share my curriculum choice guidelines with you for this past school year. You know, if we don't have guidelines in place for what we're going to choose, things get difficult really fast when it comes to choosing curriculum because it's hard to narrow things down. You know, so many things look good and we want to do them all. I know I've made that mistake in the past. And so I, every year now, try to come up with my guidelines of, as a way to narrow down our curriculum choices to hopefully get the best fit for us, to give us a greater probability of success when it comes to that. So for this school year, I started off by doing our family focus statement, which I have another video about, which I'll link below. And in our family focus statement, I determined that I wanted our curriculum to be moderately structured. Like I said, I have a couple kids on the autism spectrum. We need structure in our home. And but then I also have kind of a free-spirited kid who likes to be loosey-goosey about things. So I didn't want to be super structured, but we need some structure. So what that means for us when it comes to curriculum is we're not going to be doing unschooling this year for anything. We've done some of that in the past, but not this year. We needed curriculum that was either structured or that I can impose some structure on it, and I've had to do that this school year. I also wanted us to focus on making time for friends, for either deepening current friendships or making new friends. So every year I try to focus on something different. You can't focus on everything every year. This year, this is what I wanted to focus on. So for when it comes to curriculum, what that means is I want to protect our free time and not be doing schoolwork on the weekends or in the evenings if we can avoid it. If we've done the work we need to do during the school day. And so again, what that means for curriculum is I'm not focused on doing a lot of like big projects or anything. Nothing project heavy. Nothing where we have to memorize a million things. So that's one way for us to narrow down what curriculum we use. Okay, digital teacher reference system. I have another video about teacher reference systems, which I'll link. But for curriculum, what that means is that I wanted to find curriculum where I could get a digital copy, like an ebook or PDF version of the teacher's manuals, because I want everything on my iPad or where I can access it from my iPad or phone or laptop or whatever computer I'm on. I don't want to have to go to a shelf and get a book. I don't want to have a big binder with all my teacher stuff in it. I've done all that before. This year, though, I just really wanted to streamline things and have everything accessible on my iPad. And that narrows things down because not all curriculum companies have like jumped on the digital bandwagon. You know what I mean? That's been kind of a pain and has limited things in some ways. But this is what I needed to do to make the school year more successful for us. I also wanted to focus on a digital curriculum system for my 8th grader. I have another video about curriculum systems, but for my 8th grader, I'm going to talk about delights in a minute, but he really likes to do things digitally. That makes things a little bit more fun, kind of smooths the way for him. Maybe fun is too strong a word, but a little more pleasant for him. You know what I mean? And so I wanted to find curriculum where I could get a PDF version of any textbook or workbook or anything, or an ebook version of it, so that he can access everything from his iPad and with his Apple Pencil and some headphones, and for online schooling type things, he could just do everything on his iPad. So that was a big focus for him this year. And then we get to learning preferences. So I have another video about learning preferences, which I'll link, but for my oldest, his preferred learning method is interactive. That means doing things hands-on or interacting with information. And for curriculum, what that means for him is that he's able to do things via like workbooks, worksheets, an app where he's doing maybe some kind of game or something to learn the material. He's interacting with the material, not just reading, so nothing literature heavy for him, because that's very passive for him, and that's like his least effective learning method. So I don't want anything literature heavy, more interactive, where he's having to go back to whatever reading he does do, and he tends to skim things. So if he's doing things if he's actually having to fill out a worksheet or do things in a workbook, then he has to go back and look, and like skimming isn't enough. He has to give specific answers or doing things in an app. So we're doing a lot of apps this year for some of his learning. And his social need as part of the learning preferences. The options are independent, one-on-one, or group. The most effective social need for him is independent, where he could do things independently, where it's him and the material. So for curriculum, what that means is I'm not at all focused on group learning. So I'm not going to choose any curriculum that's going to require us to do things together in a group. That's just not going to work for him. It does not work for him. He does like to work with me one-on-one some, and so I always have something where we do one-on-one things. And also I do active teaching with all of my kids, including my independent oldest. Some things every day and some things just like a couple times a week. So I do actively teach him. But if I can find a way for him to learn things independently, either because it's spelled out for him in a workbook or because it's a video-driven course, then I'm going to choose that. Okay, what's next? Okay, his delights. I have another video about the 3Ds, and where I talk about delights, and the delights are about smoothing the way for learning. If I can do things in a way that incorporates something that he really likes or is interested in, that smooths the way for learning. It makes things just a little bit more pleasurable. You know, schoolwork is schoolwork. Most schoolwork isn't going to be fun. I'm not trying to make it fun. Because sometimes learning is hard. That's just how it is. But if I can find things, a way to do things where I can add little delightful aspects to it, every little delightful thing I add makes it a little more pleasurable and can smooth the way a lot for learning for him. And so for him, he's got some pretty narrow interests, but the things I focused on, the delights I focused on this year for him were to do things digitally. He loves technology, and that's why I chose that digital curriculum system for him, because he loves to do any work on his iPad. He loves to use GoodNotes to do things, to write on the iPad instead of like in a workbook or in a binder. So that's one of the things, doing things digitally, and also including apps and that kind of thing. And he loves survival books. So I always have to look for a way to make language arts more pleasurable for him, because it's like his least favorite. And he loves survival books like My Side of the Mountain, things where someone's surviving out in nature, or kind of more outdoors specific. That makes sense. So that's something I made note of for him. But in general, if I had to just summarize our guidelines for the school year, it would be to just get things done. It doesn't have to be magical. Some curriculum companies and some educational philosophies, like, this isn't the language they would use, but I feel like they're trying to make things more fun, and magical for kids. It's like, oh, you have to make learning magical, and that's what'll make them lifelong learners. And I don't agree with that. I think that I can make their lives more magical if I protect their free time. And I protect their free time by choosing curriculum options where we can just get things done. We're not doing these giant projects or art activities or anything like that they don't really think that magical, because whenever I purposely try to do things in a magical way, it never works out. It ends up not being magical, and then it becomes a time suck. And so then that goes into our free time, and then they can't do the things they actually want to do, which is what will make life magical for them. Am I making sense here? So this is the general thing when it comes to curriculum for us. We just want to get it done. And it doesn't have to be magical. It just needs to be effective. All right, so on to our choices. In this area right here, I'm going to put our specific, the specific choices that I've made for my son. And you're going to notice, do you see here in the left-hand side, this little legend of symbols I have? I'll mark some of the choices I have over here with these symbols. So the little smiley face means I made that option, or I made that choice because it's feeds into one of the delights that my son has. The check mark means it was a good choice. The plus sign means I needed to add it, probably to remediate it because something else didn't work out. The little symbol is it's okay. That could mean that, it's doing the job. It's not special or magical or fun, or it's not fantastic. Or it could mean that I'm not real sure. It seems to be going okay, but I'm not real clear on it. And then the little minus sign means it did not work out, and we had to move on to something else. So as for our first choice, I'm starting off with subjects that are required, learning that's required for homeschooling in our state. And then I'll move on to things that aren't required or that are electives. So math, obviously super important subject to cover, and he's in Algebra 1 this year, and I chose Power Homeschool this year for this. And you see the little smiley face symbol. I chose this because he could do things digitally. Power Homeschool is an online video driven courses, homeschool option where there's different courses in there, including Algebra 1. And all of my kids are doing some Power Homeschool stuff this year. This is new for us. This is one of these new things I thought I'd try. It was a little bit risky. But the reason I chose this is because it is video driven. The Algebra 1 video I saw seemed like it was really fun, like the teacher was fantastic. It seemed like it'd be really fun, as fun as you can make algebra. I like algebra, but as fun as you can make algebra. And I also chose it because when you have 3 kids and when you have independent learners and they're all in different grades and all that, I can't teach them everything. Like, I can't spend every day teaching every kid every subject. So with this video driven option, I don't have to sit and teach this to him every day. I do need to help him at times to further explain a topic or when he's struggling, but it's not, he can do this independently without me. That's why I chose it. And am I glad I chose it? It's okay. It's doing its job, but I've realized through doing this, math is just one of those things I don't want to do computer-based ever again. We're going to go back to Math-U-See next year because there's no workbook, so that means that for a kid who needs to really be hands-on and writing things out for him, forcing him to fill out a worksheet, that's preferable for him. When you don't have the workbook, I've had to make sure that he's actually getting paper or like on good notes, going through and working out the problems instead of just trying to do them in his head always. And then when I need to help him, it's not always real clear. Like, I have to try to figure out what he's needing help on, and Power Homeschool doesn't make that easy for me. So it's been okay. It's doing its job. I probably wouldn't choose it again though. Okay, language arts is one of those things that includes a lot of different disciplines, and I tend to tackle each of those subjects, like handwriting and grammar and literature and spelling. I tend to tackle all those separately and give a different level of focus to each one each year depending on what my kids need. I feel that in general that's better than just choosing like an English curriculum where things are just partly taught. So for literature and grammar, we're using Power Homeschool for that. So actually what Power Homeschool has is just like an English course, and it supposedly includes a lot of things. I'm using it mostly for the literature aspect because I did want him to focus this year on different literature concepts, foreshadowing, poetry, that kind of stuff, instead of just reading, going beyond character and setting and, basic plot. And it is teaching some grammar. I'm not using it for grammar really because we had a big focus on grammar last year, but it's going okay when it comes to all that. I also chose Power Homeschool for literature because I like some of the books they're reading this year, like Call of the Wild, I think was the first one. That really fed into more his delight, his kind of nature, survival kind of delight that he has. And I thought he'd find books like that interesting, and so that's why I chose it, and it's going okay. For spelling, yeah, he is 8th grade, but we tried some different spelling curricula throughout the years, and spelling is something he really needs to focus on. And, I ended up realizing All About Spelling was the best option for him. And so we actually spent the beginning of the year finishing up level 6, and then after Christmas we moved into level 7, and we're just going to finish, I think it's the final All About Spelling level. It's been great. This is one of those things I had to impose structure on, and I'm using different apps along with All About Spelling, like we're putting spelling lists into Turbo Words and doing some different things like that. But All About Spelling is our like the spine for teaching spelling in our homeschool this year. So that's been working out great. Grammar. So like I said, last year we had a big focus on grammar, so I didn't want a huge focus on that this year. So I have this little extra symbol here meaning anything that you see marked as extra is like, if we don't have time for it, we don't have time for it, and we just move on because I want to protect our free time. But I did want some focus on grammar, so we're going to go ahead and try. We are trying this app. And this is the editor-in-chief app from the Critical Thinking Company. They actually have a workbook, and I chose the app instead because, he's interactive, and I thought that'd be more pleasurable for him. And also it's, doing things on the iPad. This, I think, has been a good choice because it forces him to look at actual text. I think I have an example of it here. Hold on, let me pull that up. So here's the app. You can see they focus on different things, and then there's activities for each topic, and there's a selection, like a passage, and they have to kind of mark it up for what needs to be fixed and why it needs to be fixed and all. So that's the editor-in-chief app. So I think that's working out okay. And I'm having him do that during our easy weeks. We kind of do it a year-long, an all-year Sabbath schooling schedule. And so we're doing that on the easy week, kind of our off easy weeks, which I've talked about in other videos. If you want more information about that, I can do another video about it. All right, so for writing, this is one of those things we had to add. I was hoping that Power Homeschool, it does have writing activities in it. I was hoping that would be enough because we've put a lot of focus on writing the last few years using IEW's, the Institute for Excellence in Writing, using their curricula, and so we've focused on that a lot. And I wanted a little bit of a break from it this year, but I found Power Homeschool to not be sufficient. I hate the way they do writing. So, I mean, there's writing activities in there, but we just don't do them. I ended up absolutely hating them. And so about a month into the school year, I ended up adding the Evan Morris Daily 6 Straight Writing because I've used it in the past. I believe I do have a curriculum review video on the Daily 6 Straight Writing on my YouTube channel. And I've never used it for an upper grade, like 8th grade, and didn't think I would. Wasn't sure how it would work out, but I've been pretty happy with it, actually. I don't think it's sufficient. IEW is definitely better. It's more comprehensive and more about report and essay writing. But I've actually been really pleasantly surprised with it. But I knew I needed to add something because Power Homeschool is not working out when it came to writing. I also had to add assigned reading. So this was added on, and again, through Power Homeschool, he's reading different books and excerpts and things. But I really want him to expand his reading. I wanted all my kids to. So I try to bribe them to do that this year by telling them, hey, if you read, I even made up a book list for each of them, like a customized, curated book list for each of my kids. And with books that I thought they would like, that they would find delightful, like for my 8th grader, books like, what's it, Island of the Blue Dolphins, that kind of thing that fed into that survival nature aspect that he really likes. And I told him, hey, if you read one of these books, then I will pay you $1 per book. The reason I did that was because I want them to go beyond what they normally read. They're not, there's different kinds of readers. There's a reader like me who I like to read everything. And then there's readers like my 8th grader who he likes to read what he likes to read. He doesn't like to wander the library and find books. Like, he just doesn't want to. So he likes graphic novels. He likes Minecraft books. He likes that kind of thing, which is fine. I don't mind him reading that, but I wanted them to read more and do a little, I don't know. I wanted them to choose some better options, get more words in, and go beyond what they normally read, and maybe find something new that they like. It didn't work. Paying them the $1 didn't work. So I finally, after Christmas, said, okay, I'm now assigning new reading. And so now each of my kids, including my 8th grader, they read 20 minutes a day out of the book I assigned to them. They can read other stuff in their free time, but they need to read 20 minutes a day out of the book that I assigned to them. I'll still pay them the $1 because I said I would. But I need them to read something beyond Minecraft books, you know? And I am happy to say it's worked out really well. I'm going off the list of books I curated for them. And so, like, he may not have chosen those books himself, but I really tried to find books that I thought he would like, and it's worked out pretty well. And that's got him thinking about, it's like, oh yeah, I do like to read some, something beyond a graphic novel or Minecraft book. So even in his free time reading, he's going beyond his typical reading choices. So I'm counting that as schoolwork. And I'm not having them fill out any worksheets or anything for that assigned reading. It's just 20 minutes of reading a day. All right, so for social studies, good citizenship. For this, I chose ACE, Texas History. ACE is like School of Tomorrow. I don't love everything about ACE. There's some specific things I don't like about them, but I do like how straightforward they are. I do like the little workbook aspect. There are things I like about them. And so I was going to try to get off ACE, but for Texas History, I really wanted him to do this one because we do live in Texas. It's a half a year curriculum. And I thought that was sufficient for him because he is in Boy Scouts. He actually, at the beginning of the year, one of his merit badges was all about citizenship and all, and he did a lot of work for that. And so I thought that was sufficient for him for this year, that we could fit this in and meet this state requirement. One thing about it is ACE School of Tomorrow is one of those companies that has not jumped on the digital bandwagon. It really bugs me. So it's not digital. This is something that he does. He has the physical packets that he does, and it's really a pain. Don't like it, but I'm glad I chose it. It was a good choice. Also, a little bit extra for social studies. He's doing geography and Power Homeschool just because I saw it was there. It seemed kind of light. It's a world geography type of course. And so I thought, this is extra. It wasn't really what I planned to do, but it's here. So let me go ahead and let him try it. It doesn't take that much time. If it did, I would have removed it. But did I show you the Acellus screen? I don't think I did. So let me show that to you. If I did, sorry, I'm going to show you again. So I blurred out some stuff, but Acellus is Power Homeschool. Acellus is another name for it that's accredited that you pay a whole lot of money for. Power Homeschool is like $25 a month. And so this is just showing you real quick that they can do this on their iPads. These are the courses that my 8th grader is doing this year. And so like this algebra, you can see there's all these different activities, and they do a certain number of them a day. You can kind of you can customize that, and that's how that works out. So I thought, well, might as well add geography because they have that in there, and I do want them to know more about the world in general, not just the United States. And so I added that on, and it's been working out. If it took a lot of time, I'd remove it. It's okay, he's being exposed to a lot of things I'm glad he's being exposed to, and so I call that a win. When it comes to evaluating whether or not I made good choices, if I have mostly check marks and that symbol, then I feel like it's okay. If I have a lot of things like minus didn't work out, then I think I did a bad job. But so far I've had mostly check marks and that symbol, which means it's going okay. Something else that's a little extra is the GeoTouch app. I did want them to focus a little more on United States history as well, or my oldest especially, like where different states are and all. That's something that we never really focused on before. I'll show that to you as well. So this is an app that he uses on his iPad, and you can see where they focus on a few states at a time and where those are located, and it tells them the name. So there's an audio part of this, which I don't think you're hearing. And they focus on a few at a time until they master them. They move on to the next. And so, I got to tell you honestly, I need this app. I don't know where all the states are. It's one of those things you focus on in school and then forget. And school was a whole long time ago for me. So anyway, I thought that would be helpful for him to do some exposure to that. And um, it's been going okay. It's one of those extras that we do during easy weeks. And that kind of app I really like because it is mastery based. And I just have him do a few minutes a day, and he's learning. All right, for science. This year I chose something I never used before. It's PAC is Paradigm Accelerated Curriculum, I believe it is. It's not. I don't think it's secular. It's Christian based, and I do prefer to do science with some kind of Christian curriculum. That's interesting for history. I prefer not to do Christian curriculum, but for science I do. And what I really love about Paradigm, there's a few things I like about it, but a big reason I chose it is because you can buy the digital copies of everything, the textbook, the workbooks, everything, and the teacher's manuals as well. And so that's what my son's doing this year. They provide curriculum for like middle school and high school. So we've never used it before, but I've been pretty happy with it. That was a really good choice. And he's been really interested in a lot of things he's learning. They also focus on kind of life principles and some story-based stuff. And so it's been a good choice. I'm happy with it. All right, now more elective type things. For Bible, I had him start the school year doing Proverbs journaling. I'm going to show you how we did that. I created this journal that we could import into GoodNotes. And so you see here, I think I did it in PowerPoint. And I just made up a different page for every day of the month. So like on, let's say February 1st, he would read chapter 1 of Proverbs. And there's 31 chapters in Proverbs. And so he would read a chapter a day, put his favorite verse, write a prayer. And so I just demonstrate how you can write on these pages in GoodNotes. And so that's what I chose for him, and he did that all through 2022. Let me kind of back up. I think you'll see I even labeled it 2022 because that's what he did for 2022. And after he did that, let's see, that worked out well. And so then after he did that for this 2023, I wanted to move him more into a little more, instead of kind of devotional stuff, a little deeper understanding of scripture, and wanted him to start with New Testament. So ACE, again, I ended up, since they're straightforward, ordering their biblical studies, their New Testament packet for him. So that's what he started on just recently. And it's going well. I'm glad I ordered it. I've been enjoying reading it. He's going to learn a lot with it. I will say it drove me crazy that it was just physical. So I ended up making digital versions of them for him to use, which are just for personal use, but it's just to make it easier on him and on me in our homeschool. All right, and then for electives, because what's life without a little fun stuff? Well, Spanish won't be one of those fun things for him. I try something different with Spanish every year. I never find something good, but we decided to do Power Homeschool this year because it's video driven, so he could hear native speakers. So I thought, because I haven't spoken Spanish since I was 5, even though I'm a native speaker, I haven't spoken Spanish much since I was 5 or 6 when I learned English. And so he'd really benefit from listening to a native speaker. And with Power Homeschool's video-based curriculum, I thought that would be a good option for him. And it's okay. It's okay. It's doing the job. He's learning about conjugating verbs this year, and so I did have to bring in some supplemental tables and charts for him to import into GoodNotes and go over those with him. So I've had to go over things separately with him. So it hasn't been sufficient for him to be completely independent on learning Spanish or Spanish concepts. but he is at least saying some phrases which he's really proud of himself for, and so it's been okay. Social development, that's another power homeschool thing. This is something that just came with the software, and which I was a little iffy on. Like, you don't have to pay extra for social development, and I was a little iffy on it because it says social development. So I thought, what are you trying to teach? Like, that's, I wasn't sure it was going to be included, but I went ahead and started all my kids on it just to, maybe if it's learning about anti-bullying or having integrity or working hard, being diligent, it has concepts like that they discuss in the video that the instructor in the videos discusses. And I thought, it can't hurt for them to hear all those things, at least once. I haven't seen anything objectionable. I have been concerned that some, what can we say, maybe politically driven ideas would be passed on through this course. I haven't seen that. So it's been working out okay. Just takes a few minutes a day, so we're going ahead and stick with that. Critical thinking. This is one of those things I think should be required for everybody. Not just because politicians do everything they can to manipulate our thinking, but marketers do too. Product companies really work hard to manipulate our thinking. And so I like to focus them on critical thinking in our homeschool. Last year, he did the fallacy detective, which just focused on logical fallacies, which was really helpful. And we talked about things like how products are advertised and how advertisers will try to manipulate your thinking. But this year I chose the basics of critical thinking, again, through the Critical Thinking Company, to have more general critical thinking concepts. And it comes in, I chose it not just because I like a lot of the Critical Thinking Company's products, but because I could get a digital copy of it that I imported into GoodNotes, so for him to use on his iPad. And he could just do like a page or two a day. So I thought this is kind of an easy drip way of learning some more critical thinking concepts. But honestly, I thought it might be too easy. Some of the things I thought, is this a waste of time, even if it is just a few minutes? Because he probably spends most days 10 minutes or less on it each day. But it turns out there are some things that I thought might be too easy, but he needed some help with. He needed to have me discuss with him. So I'm glad I chose this because it's filling in some holes for him that I wasn't aware of. All right, moving on. Music, we're somewhat of a musical family, and my husband has a degree in music education, was a choir director for many years, and I played the clarinet for many years in middle school, high school, and some college. And I think music education is good for kids for all the reasons. You can go out and find a million articles and blog posts and videos talking about how beneficial music education is. So really wanted to have that for all of my kids. So for my oldest, since he'll be in high school next year, I thought, he's going to need a fine arts credit, and I wanted it to be like choir or band. And choir I've tried with him before, but I thought that was a little too, it wasn't as interactive as it needed to be to hold his attention. So I wanted him to learn an instrument. So band would be the better option for him, because you're physically playing an instrument. He's playing the trumpet. And so he's in a homeschool band. This is the second year. He's in an intermediate band this year, and I'm going to make him do it one more year. Make him do it because it's not his favorite, but it's been a good experience for him. But I'm going to make him do it one more year to get that fine arts credit for his transcript. And I've been pretty happy with it, not just because he's learning to play an instrument and he's playing in a band, but he's participating in concerts, and he's seen how practicing every day has improved him. Like, all of those things I think have benefits for kids. So I've been really happy with that choice. Also we wanted all of our kids to have some knowledge of the piano. Like, I personally don't care if they ever play me a long piece of music. But I thought it couldn't hurt for them to at least practice piano some, learn more about music theory. There's a lot of, again, benefits to all of that for their learning how practicing can result in improvements and how that can affect their understanding of study skills and also for their little brains using both hands, all those reasons. So I started off by using Homeschool Piano. There's something called Homeschool Piano. You can get a really good discount for a Homeschool Piano course on the Homeschool Buyers Co-op. And so we started off with that. These are video-driven lessons. We started piano last year. My husband was teaching them, but that ended up being a bit of a burden for him and didn't allow us to structure piano really well in our homeschool, because then the kids were waiting for my husband to be off work, and sometimes he was tired. Like, it was kind of a pain. So I wanted them to do some online video driven lessons, and so that's why I was looking for something like that. So I start off with Homeschool Piano, which is it seems more, it's like jazz inspired type course, which it's hard for me to explain why I didn't like it. I felt it wasn't as structured. The lessons weren't as structured and all as I wanted them to be. Maybe we'd stuck with it, but it just wasn't working out for it. It didn't feel good to me. Sometimes it's hard to tell why something doesn't work. You know what I mean? So it didn't feel good to me. So I ended up getting rid of that for all the kids, and we moved on to Hoffman Academy, another video-driven online piano course option. And I've been really happy with this one. So this was added maybe a month into our school year after I changed from Homeschool Piano. Hoffman Academy, if you do like the premium version, it is much more expensive, but I feel like you get a lot more for it. Kids are learning solfege, a lot about music theory. The practice even is kind of laid out for them how to practice. Like, I feel like a really good piano course. I do highly recommend this, and that's been a good option. So we're going to stick with that for a while. Also added a PE class this year, which has caused havoc to our schedule, but he goes twice a week, and it is taught by a bona fide PE teacher. It's a homeschool PE class. They do a different sport every month. Now, I chose this for him. You see the little delight symbol because he is hands-on and interactive, and so of course sports really is good for a kid like that if they're interested in sports. But he's not really, even though he's a natural athlete and would be really good at sports if he cared to be. So I thought, well, let's focus on it some. And I like that this homeschool PE class, they do a different sport every month. And so I thought, well, maybe he can try out different sports this way, and then we'll see if we can find one that he really likes enough to stick through the season, because he just loses interest, right? And so it's worked out in that way. I also thought this might be a good way to maybe make some new friends, and it hasn't been as successful in that way for him. I mean, he is having fun with other kids and all that, but he hasn't like made a lifelong friend in there. But it fit in within our guidelines and fed into the delight for him. But it's, going twice a week in the middle of the day, it's been kind of a pain. But it's worked out really. I've been glad for him to get this, not just be exposed to different sports, but to get some exercise. Because, when kids are little, it's something that no one told me about, how when they're little, it's so easy. You just throw them outside and they play and they get a lot of physical activity. And I feel like I needed to schedule PE in our homeschool. But as they get older, they just lose interest in just going outside and playing. I mean, I kick them out sometimes and make them, but and they find something to do. But it's that's not something they beg to do, and there's a lot of complaining when I do tell them you need to go outside and play. It's hard to tell a 13-year-old that. So it's been a good option. I'm really glad I chose it. So those are our homeschool choices for my 8th grader. Just wanted to spell out to you that you see here on my YouTube channel. I have other videos with homeschool choices for previous years, as well as, I'll get the words out, as well as uh, curriculum reviews. Maybe I won't get the words out. Curriculum reviews for a lot of the curriculum that we've used in the past. Let me know if there's something I mentioned that I don't have a review for, or even if you don't want to go digging, like let me know and I'll let you know. I'll point you to the video if I don't have it, and I'll add it like to the description below so that you can find it. Or if there's a video that I haven't made that you'd really like me to make, let me know. So in a couple of days, I plan to do a curriculum choices video for my fifth grader, and then maybe a couple of days after that for my third grader. So if you're interested in those, keep an eye out for that. So I'm hoping Tuesday for the video for my fifth grader, and it'll be this same type of format. I'm trying to do these lives instead because I just don't have time for all the editing, and I just want to get the video done and out there. So be on the lookout for that, for those other videos I plan to do later on this week, and join the live and join the chat so that you can also ask questions during the video if you'd like. And thanks for joining me today, and I will see you in the next live. Bye-bye.